Hello and welcome to The Lawless Way, talks based on the book called The Lawless Way by Philip J. Bradbury, who happens to be me. I'm Philip J. Bradbury, and a couple of questions for today. First is, how many mobile phones have you owned? Now, it might take a while to work that out, and we don't need to know the answer, but probably the answer is more than one. And so when you decide that you want a new mobile phone, i.e., the old one died, it fell in the water, it doesn't work, or the new ones do more than the old one does, what do you do? Do you fight the old one? Do you make laws and regulations and rules about how the old one must work now and try and change it into what the new one is? No. We simply get rid of the old one, give it away, sell it, throw it in the rubbish, and buy a new one. We buy the new one that works for our new needs and has all the functions that we need. And the same with cars. I'm sure most of us have had more than one car in our lives. And when the old one no longer serves us, i.e., we've smashed it up in an accident, or the motor blows up, or it just doesn't really go very well, or we just like a new car. When we decide it's time for a new car, we don't make rules about the old one, how it must be, and fight it and try and change it into something else. We give it away, sell it, dump it, whatever, and get another one. Get one that serves us better. Then it may be that we've run out of money and so we have to trade down. Whatever reason, we don't fight the old one. We simply change it into one that serves us better. And yet, when we come to our society, the big things in life, the things that actually matter, not the toys, our society and the way we manage our society, our government, we don't do that. And I'm wondering why. See, our current government, as we really do need to acknowledge, just does not work for us. And yet, we have a paradigm in the rest of our lives for when we have shoes that we've grown out of them or they wear out, or bedclothes, or pots and pans and crockery and anything, houses, anything that does not serve us anymore. We don't fight the old one. We don't try and change the old one into what we want for the new function or the new presence. We simply get a new one. And yet, with government, when it doesn't work, what do? We fight it. We try and change it. We try and make new laws around the old laws that don't work, and it gets more and more complicated. And we wonder why it continues not to work. Why not just change it? Just imagine up a new one, as John Lennon put it quite nicely in his song. Imagine, let us do that. Imagine a new world where we work in a more cohesive, supportive, loving, equal way, shall we? I don't know. Let's come up with those things that give us what we do want in this world. Because, as Buckminster Fuller put it, the American visionary and inventor, he didn't invent the geodesic dome, but he developed it. He's kind of the father of it, although he didn't invent it. Anyway, one thing he said, among others, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. We don't fight the old shoes, we just get new ones. So we don't change things by fighting the existing reality, he said. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And we know the current government system is obsolete. It does not work for most citizens. And at the moment, the government, and whatever country we're talking about, whatever, if you like, Western type democracy, which is a joke in itself, because the current model of government actually gives more power to corporations than it does to human beings. And I'm sure that's not what we want nowadays. It obviously was what we wanted before because that's what we had. But we do not need to continue with what we've got and fighting around the edges and complaining about it and trying to change it. It is what it is. And we see people fighting the current laws where we have, let's say, dishonest politicians or politicians who keep breaking their own laws. So people find new laws to stop them. But how stupid is that? If they're the kind of people who break their old laws, they're going to break the new ones. So let us just ignore them. Just create new ones. Just start again. Just start imagining the world as we would like it to be. See, in America, since about 1830, the corporations have been given more power than human beings. And that, if you like, we've kind of taken that on to the rest of the world. Not blaming the Americans, it's just that's what's happened. And whether we're England, New Zealand, Australia, India, or whatever, corporations have more power now. So if we have our community and we're happily getting along and doing what we do and whatever, and then a corporation decides to dig up the place and stick a pipeline underneath it, or start fracking nearby, or start taking our water millions of gallons a day, the human beings have no rights to stop it. That is how government works at the moment. The corporations can do what they like. And there is the deforestation and the fracking that poisons water, and it makes the water that comes out of taps flammable. Have you heard of burning water? Yes, that's what fracking does, among other things. It puts people in hospital, it kills people, and yet the harm is done by a corporation, and because it's done by a corporation, there actually really is no way of stopping it. Our government system cannot cope with that. Our government system is set up to enable corporations to exist. And in fact, corporations, they aren't really things, are they? They're not like human beings. You can't pick a corporation up. It's just an assembly of legal words and a whole lot of people believing in a belief. And so we give more power to this intangible, self-created thing. And so, for example, there is what's called the community rights, what do we say, group. Paul Cienfuegos, excuse me for my pronunciation, Paul. Paul Cienfuegos seems to be the leader, the spokesman for this community rights group in America, and has been going for well over 14 years now. And what they do is where there are communities that wish to make the community safer and protect the environment and to protect the people against the laws that support corporations. So, for example, where there's a forested area and the community wants to keep those forests for all sorts of good reasons, if a corporation wishes to chop down those trees, there is actually nothing we can do. Not really. And so this community rights group has come up with something new. Instead of fighting the old laws, what they have started doing over the last 14, maybe more years, they have actually started creating laws that are actually illegal, and yet they stand. This is crazy, I know, but all laws that have been created are illegal. Originally, the feminine, what was it called? Women's ability to vote. Originally, that was illegal. So they passed a new law. So, of course, the new law was illegal against the old one. It's simply changing our shoes. The old law must go and a new law comes in. So what this community rights group is doing is recognizing that, firstly, our current laws do not prevent harm. They're not there to prevent harm, which is why our planet's, one of the reasons our planet's in a mess and it's being desecrated daily. The current laws are there simply to administer harm, to regulate harm. So if a corporation wishes to dig up your community, put a gas pipeline through, say, or wishes to drain your the river, like the Darling River in Australia, there is nothing that the humans can do about it. The humans can dance and argue and muck about on the side, but the corporation, because it has more rights than the humans, that all of these farmers that need the water and the wildlife and the human beings, not only farmers, communities, we all need water. When that water is being drained away from communities, as these large mining companies are doing in Australia, as Cadbury is doing and Nestle is doing in many countries around the world, basically stealing water off communities, there is nothing we can do. And this community rights group has recognised that our current laws do not prevent harm, they regulate it. So they almost enshrine harm in our society, in that they don't stop it, but they simply put little rules around it. So you must not take any more than this many million litres of water a day, and this is how you must do it and when, and you must sign this document and all of this sort of stuff, and you might have to pay us a little fee to take our water or to cut down our trees or to dig up our sacred land. So there are rules around it, but the rules do not stop harm. They simply regulate it. And in fact, by regulating it, they actually reinforce it. They make it okay. They make what is not okay, okay. And so this community rights group, for example, and I'm sure there's lots of others around, are seeing that the current laws do not work for us. Our current government does not work for us. So they are creating laws from their own imagination. They're not starting with the old shoes and fixing them, or the old phone and fixing it, or the old car and fixing it. They're saying, we don't need those ones anymore. We need that car out of our lives and a new one in. So they are actually creating laws and they are being upheld. And what is happening is in the, if you like, the old laws, if a corporation somebody tried to stop a corporation doing something that caused harm in a community, so the corporation would then take action against that community for trying to stop them. Under the old laws, there was absolute power for the corporation, and the community could not do anything. The individual people could not really fight it. And yes, I know that whaling has been stopped in many places and deforestation has stopped here, and lots of community groups, whether it's Greenpeace or whatever, they have made differences. Yes, absolutely. But overall, the corporations are still carrying on doing what they do. And it is a continual fighting at the edges for individuals who are least able to do the fight in terms of finances and all of that legal experience, shall we say. So this community rights group are setting up new laws that are actually in contravention of the old laws. However, they are being upheld because they are written in such a clever way that they are not about managing harm. They are about creating the possibility or creating the actuality of what we do want. They are laws that promote what we do want. So we want safe communities. We want healthy communities. So if say fracking come as a possibility, if it's not safe to the community, then it doesn't happen. I know this sounds very like, what's the difference? But it just doesn't happen to start with. Full stop. There is no, yes, you can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that and we'll regulate it. There is just, no, go away. Goodbye. Do not even talk about this. The new laws that they're creating are more all-encompassing, and they're not chipping away at the edges and leaving the substance in the middle. There was a food producer in America in 2014, I think, and they were found to have GMO, genetically modified products or ingredients in one of their products. I think it was like a sausage sausage type thing. And so they were taken to court and it cost millions. And anyway, the community group, whoever it was, got them to agree not to put GMO in that one product. But the company produces well over 150 products. So it carries on putting GMO in the other 149 and not in the one. And that is kind of symbolic of how it's going at the moment. We chip away at these corporations that are doing harm, and we have one small harm that's taken away. Whoopee, that's great, but the 99% is still happening. It just carries on. And so this community rights group that Paul Cienfuegos is spearheading is starting with something new. They're making their own laws in all of these communities throughout America. Generally, they're working in the smaller rural communities where people actually don't give a damn about what the federal government says because they are on their property. And a lot of those people, a lot of them are indigenous people, and they have fought conquerors for centuries, and they're used to fighting conquerors, and that is their land. They're not going to get off it. They're not going to put up with these corporations, and so they are the ones that are starting this revolution, if you like, the new way of government. And so I just invite you, in the way that this community rights group has done, they have stepped back and said, the current laws don't work, let's start again. So our current government actually doesn't work at the moment, and we're all fighting and trying to change it. But it's intractable, it's not going to change. The structure of the way that it's set up invites dishonest people to be at the top, invites people who don't care about the individuals, but people who care about the corporation and are sponsored by the corporation. So the whole system is self-generating to deny the rights of individuals. And so if we want something different, there's no point in fighting, because fighting never fixed anything anyway. Because if it did, we'd stop fighting. The last war would have fixed it. No, we're going to keep fighting. And no war has ever fixed wars because they keep going. So instead of fighting it, let us start with something new. Let us start imagining a new world, a new way of relating, a new way of being with each other, a new way of being on the land here, a new way of being with the forests and the sky and the animals. And I don't even like the word resources because that sounds like it's an asset to be used. They're not, I know they say they're natural resources, but a resource implies something that has to be used up. Just call it nature. How are we going to be with nature? And what is a new way that we can do that? So I, in March, used to be a teacher face-to-face with students, and then in the snap, the next day I was at home teaching online. I wasn't in a classroom anymore. And we've all had to do that sudden switch. There is no reason why we can't do that with government. We don't need our politicians to leave their constituencies and fly to this incredibly expensive parliament building, whatever it is, government house, Congress. We don't need those buildings. All of those government people can work from home. And our politicians can run their government from home. So, I'm just playing with ideas because at the moment there are very large, solid structures that are embedded into our world that seem intractable, that seem unmovable. These huge government buildings and just massive assets, and yet they can go in a flash, just like all of us. So many of us, our jobs, we just one day to the next, poof, we're at home. Why not government? Government can be run from home. Government can be run from the middle of the trees, from the middle of the ocean, from someone sitting in an airplane, can be whatever. So let us just start playing with the new possibility of how we want to be, because knowing that we cannot change what is, let's just imagine a new one. Let us start working with a new one. And let us start connecting with those who have started. Connect with the community rights group. There's 3 videos on YouTube with interviews with Paul, which are very informative. And connect with them, support them, get there. They help other people, other groups do the same thing. So let us just start working together at a community individual level. So please send me your cards and letters, as Dean Martin used to say. Let's start imagining a world that we do want. Let's start creating a new world that we do want, that works for all of us. And that is possible. It is possible to have a world that works for all of us. We've just forgotten. We've got so used to the one that doesn't work and we kind of put up with it. We don't need that. So you can email me, you can go to my website, you can go to my Facebook, you can go to my MeWe.com and let's start plastering the world with whole new ideas. And let's see what comes out of it. Let's just have fun with the imagining. So thank you for listening and bless you all and have an imaginative and amazing day. Bye.